Welcome everyone to another episode of Bronco Scoop. My name's Abigail, a third-year chemistry student. In this episode, I'm interviewing Luis Gaetan, a student at Cal Poly Pomona. He started at Cal Poly Pomona as a freshman, and today we wanted to ask him about his experience coming into Cal Poly Pomona. So, Luis, if you wanted to introduce yourself real quick before we start this interview.
Yes, of course. Once again, thank you, Abigail, for having me here today. It's a pleasure being here and being able to share my experiences. A little bit more about myself. I'm currently a first generation college student at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm currently a third year student, majoring in Spanish, but also minoring in history and philosophy. And if everything goes right, I should graduate next year, spring of 2022.
Wow, I'm sure there's a lot of those elements that are part of your experience that a lot of the students who are coming in this year for fall of 2021 that they can relate to. So I know you, thank you for introducing yourself, but do you recall receiving your admission to Cal Poly Pomona? Did you share it with the news with anybody or did you celebrate?
Yes, indeed. I vividly remember the moment when I received it. I was in high school. I believe I was in third period in my Avid class. And all of a sudden, I just received an email from Cal Poly Pomona admissions. And it was really a wonderful time because at that time, I believe I only had one or two other acceptances. And it was especially a great moment for me and my family as I said before, I'm a first generation college student, and being accepted to Cal Poly Pomona was a really exciting moment for myself and for my family.
Yeah, definitely. We just recorded an episode recently about, admission celebration, what a big moment it is for all of us when we got admitted, especially for those who are first generation college students. It's not just their accomplishment, but those who've done the work before them and their family who was there supporting them. So my next question for you is, what's your favorite memory of freshman year?
I believe my favorite memory of freshman year, the first one I should say, was being a little bit lost. Stepping foot on campus for the first time, especially as a perhaps some of us have not visited the campus prior to being accepted, but having that memory of me having my schedule printed out and looking around like I'm navigating a new environment and making sure I don't go into the wrong classroom at the wrong time was one of my favorite memories, which it did happen. I did go into the wrong classroom my first day at Cal Poly Pomona, but another memory was the inclusivity of my classes that I was taking. The Polytechnic experience is what I would like to call it, as I was taking 5 classes, and all of the classes had a unique aspect to it. My anthropology class, we did group projects, presentations, and the professor was also just recently hired at Cal Poly Pomona. Her name is Amy Dowell, and it was a great experience. But also in classes such as English composition, my first history class, political science classes, and my nutrition class that I was taking, they were all really inclusive. It was just not lecturing from the professor itself, but being able to work in groups, having a seating chart for my history class, which allowed me to get to know my peers around me. And doing inclusive work with all of my peers and all of my classes was really a memorable experience my freshman year. And that was something that is still carried out up to this date with all of my classes. They're not just you sitting there, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Polytechnic experience is one of the great perks of being at Cal Poly Pomona. Um, and like you mentioned, you might get lost the first year, but the nice thing was when I got lost, everyone was so friendly. They recognized me
Right.
right there. And so you'd ask them what building it was, and if they knew, they would just point you in the right direction. So I know you mentioned that your major is Spanish in the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences. What inspired you to choose this major?
What inspired me to choose this major was my teachers in high school. I actually took 2 years of Spanish for native speakers, and then I took AP Spanish literature. I took the actual class, but I also took the exam for AP Spanish language without being in the actual class, and being immersed in the literature in and of itself, and exploring all of the different aspects and components that there is to literature, which can also be applied in real life, was really exciting. I'm sure perhaps some of our audience has read Don Quixote, which was the first modern novel. But needless to say, I would definitely say my professors played a big role in deciding my major at that time.
Definitely. And I know you mentioned you had a minor in philosophy. Was that something that you had in mind going into Cal Poly Pomona, or was that something that just popped out of the blue?
Not necessarily. When I first came into Cal Poly Pomona, I was not really aware of unrestricted electives and things of that nature. So after taking my first history class and my first philosophy class, I was really intrigued by both of the subjects. I myself, I took history in high school over the summer and was not really intrigued by it, but the passion that all of the professors that study these subjects that they bring to the students, it really reflects on how they teach that subject. And in my first history class, I was really passionate about it. I was really interested in learning about being exposed to different human activities, mankind's past, and so on and so forth. So it was actually a year after I came to Cal Poly Pomona where I declared my a minor in history, and a year later, on fall of 2020, is when I declared my minor in philosophy, which as stated previously as well, it was also due to the fact that my professors were really passionate about the subject, but also both subjects bring real life experiences and skills.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And, a lot of students have heard of minors, or they've thought about minoring in this, but what does it mean? And it's really helpful for them to, maybe dip their toe in, take a
Right,
class, see what it's really like if it's a subject that interests them, because maybe like you said, maybe Spanish isn't their only interest. We know
right,
we're multifaceted people. We have different interests. We didn't have hobbies, so it's really important for students to recognize that now's their time to explore, to take classes.
right. Especially when everyone is taking their GEs at Cal Poly Pomona, that's a really great time to explore what else fascinates you.
Yeah, definitely. So this my next question for you is, um, did you join any clubs, or were you any part of organizations your freshman year?
You know, I was actually part of the Spanish Language Association Club, and I still am part of the Spanish Language Association Club. I actually joined it my freshman year of college. Every year, Cal Poly Pomona, especially in the fall, they will have a club fair where all of the clubs, organizations, fraternities, and sororities will gather up in the quad and kind of present themselves to you. And I was really intrigued by the Spanish Language Association Club, and ever since fall of 2018, my freshman year, I was a general member. Subsequent to next semester, I was actually nominated to be president of the club. And following that year, now being in my third year, I'm now not the president anymore, but I'm the vice president and treasurer to that club.
Yeah, especially like in college, a lot of students may have had experiences in clubs in high school, but it's really a different setting because usually, it's a smaller community. But what's really nice about joining a club freshman year is you have this opportunity to meet others who share similar interests of you, whether you join an academic club, um, or you join just a club that's just for fun. I think Cal Poly Pomona has around 300 clubs, and they're all student-led organizations. They have their advisors. So it's really something of interest, so you can meet new people, so you can build those connections.
Right.
You might know some people coming in, but it's always great to meet new people. So one of another question that I have for you is, was there any advice shared with you that helped you navigate your freshman year?
I believe the advice that helped me navigate freshman year was to really organize your schedule and your day. It doesn't matter if you're commuting or you're dorming, your schedule, although there's a lot more flexibility to it, there's also a lot more responsibilities and expectations as a college student. And with that being said, checking your email regularly is something that I would encourage all of you to develop. Make either know you can make folders within your inbox. That way, you can organize all of the different emails that you receive. For example, making a folder for this class, making a folder for your professors, and so on and so forth, and really taking the time to organize yourself, but also organize everything around you, because if something's imbalanced, then that's going to reflect on perhaps the way you perform in class or something along those lines. So being organized is a key attribute that I would encourage all of the listeners to develop.
Yeah, definitely. Communication is really key as a college student. Communication between your professors, between the university, and that main line of communication is going to be email. So, a
Right.
lot of students may recognize right now that when you're receiving your admissions, they're coming in through email before they come here by mail. And it's really important. You might have recognized to check your email, even check your spam sometimes because emails get lost along the way as well. Um,
Right.
so really, it's really important. We check our phones, what, maybe at least minimum 50 times a day. We might want to,
Right.
make sure to put an email app. Maybe set a limits on it. I know personally, um, I have my email only give me notifications during certain times. That way, not all day I'm looking through my emails. But
Right.
really, sure, staying organized, like Luis said. Having stuff in folders and organizing your inboxes if it's necessary, because I personally have deleted emails that I thought I didn't need, but luckily I was able to recover them. But just making sure you can save things and go back to them, because it is a line of communication that you might need to refer back to.
Right. And an old habit I had in high school, at least, was just shoving all of my papers in my backpack, which at the end of the day, they'll get lost, they'll get mixed up, and it's not really an efficient way to organize yourself.
So my second to last question for you is, how have you maintained community in this virtual format? You've been online for a year now. How have you been able to, stay in touch with others in the campus?
The way I've been able to stay in touch with my community, my peers, and my professors is really through Zoom meetings. And although at first glance that might not sound pleasant, as perhaps the incoming students are not very familiar with what's it like to Zoom with your professors and have Zoom meetings for the clubs and so on and so forth. It's really a new experience, and I believe this time that we're in, and now that we're Zooming for majority of our days, there's skills that are really going to be beneficial and in the long term. But the way I've kept up is, as I said before, through Zoom meetings. It's really exciting when you get to perhaps a Zoom with your friends that you haven't seen in a long time, or talk about prospective activities that you might carry out online with the club, and visit your professor's office hours through Zoom, which is it's actually a thing, and it's really it's a unique experience. It might seem tedious, but in the end, it's a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. Kapag Pomona, if you maybe you don't have that connection with your professors, or you're coming in so you don't have that ability to reach out to the students in your class, but Kapag Pomona is still having, events online. All right, Luis, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but one last question just for fun. What is your favorite spot on campus?
I believe my favorite spot on campus would definitely have to be the quad right in front of the class building, but also next to the science building. Having so much green around you and a lot of trees and so on and so forth is really a great environment around you, whether you want to perhaps have a picnic with your friends or study and so on and so forth. Being outside of the classroom and just seeing the beautiful scenery around Camp Poly Pomona is one of my favorite spots to be at and relax.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you. The quad is one of my favorite areas. We'll see students, in between their breaks, relaxing underneath the shade of the trees. We'll see those squirrels running down around the trees, which is kind of nice. The marketplace is right near there in case you want to snack.
Right.
um, quickly walk over to Panda Express or something nice to eat. But thank you, Luz, once again for joining us today for another episode of Bronco Scoop. Really appreciate you being here. We hope the students that are coming in um, have been able to maybe glean a little bit about your freshman experience, and hopefully, if they have any questions, they don't hesitate to reach out. We're available. You can post in the comments. If not, in this video description, we'll post how you can get into contact with Project Caminos, um, who is who is responsible for this podcast, through the Office of Student Success. Project Caminos is really dedicated to helping incoming freshman students and their families, or even prospective students. Maybe you know someone who's interested in Cal Poly Pomona, but really helping them make that transition from high school or community college to Cal Poly Pomona. So we'll put our contact information. If you have any questions, maybe comments about what you'd like to see, please go ahead and let us know, reach out to us. Thank you, Liz, once again, and we'll see you in the next episode of Bronco Scoop.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me today, Abigail.